Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. We are live. I'm so excited to be back here. Really pumped for today's webinar. For those of you who don't know, my name is Sasha Rice. I'm the co-founder here at Playground. And yes, I got prescription glasses in the last week, so I now look very smart. I'm really excited to be back for, I think this is our third installment of the Work Smarter series as part of this webinar ongoing series that's put on by Playground. And let's see if these slides will work. There we go. Like I said before, I'm Sasha. I'm super duper excited to be here. In addition to working on Playground, I'm also the producer of Early Childhood Investigations. It's the ongoing largest childcare training and web development series. And you could learn more about it if you want on ecewebinars.com. Oftentimes people ask me why I am in this space, and the reason is Playground really is meant to make excellent childcare accessible to all. So let me remove my face for a second. We built Playground, and I'll talk about what Playground is in just a second, but we built Playground initially to help the needs of our family. So Josh and Dan, the two brothers in the picture right there, they're my co-founders. And we initially built Playground for their mom, who was a director, who has been a director for almost 30 years. And she was finding herself spending far too much time behind the desk, swamped in the tedious administrative tasks that just come with running a childcare program. And so our goal was to build an app that would help fix that. And so that's how Playground was born. Playground is the only software program that a childcare needs to run and to grow. So we'll talk a bit more about what that actually means later on, but just some tips and tricks for today's webinar to help you all get the most out of today's session. First things first, we absolutely love to use QR codes and on-screen buttons. So like, for example, the button at the very bottom of your screen right now that says this webinar is brought to you by Playground to learn more. There'll be more of those buttons throughout. There'll be QR codes throughout. So just have a mobile device at the ready to scan the QR code, or if you want to just click the on-screen button when it pops up, feel free to do that as well. And then in addition, we record all of our webinars. So everyone who's registered will get a follow-up email 24 hours after the webinar with a link to the recording in case you want to revisit anything and check out what we talked about today. The other thing that I would encourage you strongly to do is I would love to make this interactive. So we have a Q&A, and you can throw your questions into the Q&A. If there are any technical problems or just general questions, just throw them in there, and either myself or my team, Harmony, will help out if we can. I will hopefully do as much live answering questions as possible if relevant, and otherwise we'll respond and catch anything that we miss towards the end of today. The other piece to be aware of is we like to do polls. So polls will show up in the top right corner, and I will leave them up for about 45 seconds or so, 30 to 45 seconds, depending on how engaged people are. And then we'll go through and read through the responses together. But this is just a way for me to make sure that you all are here and paying attention. So let's actually do our first poll. And this is just to test and make sure that everyone is following along. But let's talk caffeine. How many cups of coffee deep are you right now? Are you a caffeine purist? No coffee for you today? Are we at 1 cup, 3 cups? Some people are 3 or more. I don't know how you're doing that. If that was me, I would be up for the next 48 hours. I personally only drink 1 cup of coffee every 2 weeks, not more, not less, just for the love of the game. Looks like most of us are, I guess half of us don't drink any coffee. A third of us are at 1 cup. There's 1 or 2 crazy ones in here that are 3 or more, and then a fraction of you are at 2. Okay, Good. So that's how polls work. I'm glad that you were all there. It's cool to see it all come in real time. Linda says, never drink coffee or any caffeine, but she's living on sweets. Hey, you and me both. Okay, cool. So with all that fun stuff out of the way, let's jump into today's webinar topic. And that's the staffing and scheduling system that helps prevent director burnout. This is, again, part 3 of our Work Smarter webinar series. If you're interested in watching the previous 2 episodes, you can just find it on our website. Hopefully, maybe we can find it in and provide the link in the chat to you all in the next couple of moments. But in the meantime, we're glad that you're all here. In terms of the agenda, we'll talk a bit more. I'd like to situate the problem. Obviously, everyone knows that staffing is a problem. I think it's cooled off a little bit, not totally, but during COVID, this was the thing. Obviously, it's still a big issue and it's still top of mind, but it's softened a little bit. Still important to understand what the scope of the issue is and why it's so important. Then I'll talk about a framework that we like to work on with some of the folks that we work with here, some of the providers that we support. It's the Hire, Build, and Keep framework. And then I have some free resources that we've developed over the years that we'll provide and, of course, answer Q&A. And Gavi says, I'm impressed with your energy without coffee. Hey, Gavi, this is all for the love of the game. I'm just so excited to be here, and I'm excited that you're here as well. So let's jump into it. I think first things first, so many folks don't understand. I think that we're so siloed in the childcare industry, siloed by state, siloed by zip code, and there's not enough understanding of what the actual numbers and benchmarks look like. One thing that's a crazy statistic that we found, there is more turnover among US childcare workers than any other industry. 65% is it's 65% higher turnover among US childcare workers than any other industry, which is absolutely insane. And I think every single person here completely understands and has felt this, right? This is why we're all here. It's just something that is plaguing the industry and is so important to making sure that your business is running smoothly without interruptions and without forcing you or your families or the rest of your team to react in real time. And so a strong staffing system is it's part of the job, right? It's the difference between you running your center and your center running you. And I know that kind of sounds funny, but it's the truth, right? If you are reacting to a poor hire or a call out, right? Whatever it is that you wanted to get done that day is now on pause, whether you are the one filling in and covering in the classroom or you calling in an extra substitute, which you're paying 2 to 3 times more for on an hourly rate basis. Whatever it means, it completely throws a wrench in any plans you have and any sort of predictability you have. Now, I know that there are some exceptions to this rule. There's some programs that have incredible teachers who have been around for a long, long time, but a lot of folks struggle with just making sure that you are A, finding incredible talent, and then B, retaining that incredible talent. And I guess there's seeds, making sure that talent actually gets ramped up and productive, but it's tough and it's really, really, really hard. So the framework that we like to talk about here is we want to make sure that we are building something to hire incredible people, right? How do we bring in staff who are aligned with the culture and values of the program, who agree with and can follow the way that you teach and the way that you employ your curriculum, right? How do we find and hire these people? 2, how can we ramp up these staff and set them up for success? How do we provide them with the structure and training, and everboarding is the word I like to use, to make sure that they stick around. And I guess before they stick around, to make sure that they ramp up and get productive, they don't fall off and quit or whatever it might be. And then 3, how do we retain these staff? How do we make sure that they not only feel recognized, supported, and valued, but also have a very clear path to continue to grow? They have a path to make a career out of working in your program. So let's jump into it. And here's our first serious poll of the day. I'm curious from your perspective, which part of the hire, build, keep is your biggest gap right now? Is it that hiring is tough? We can't find the right people? Is it that when we do make these hires, they don't stick? Or is it that after a while, once they do ramp up, folks are leaving after a year or two? Or it could be all of the above. And let's wait a second. I'm going to quickly catch up on the Q&A while this comes in. Okay, looks like mostly top of funnel. So half the time it's finding the right people, then it's making sure they stick around, and then keeping. Usually there's this makes sense. Usually it's like if they're really, really good and there's like a really good mutual fit, they're going to stick around. That's not always the case, but yeah, it's that top of funnel piece that's really important. Cool. So let's jump ahead and let's talk a bit more about what this actually means, hiring staff. So first things first, we want to make sure that before we even have the hiring the right teachers side of things, we want to make sure that we, as the person, as the hiring manager, or as the owner, or as whatever role, are aligned with what does this program value, right? How do I describe what our culture is? How do I describe what our values are? How do we actually, what's our approach to teaching? And what makes an ideal teacher? If you could wave a magic wand and write down or think about your best teacher right now and just write a paragraph about what makes them incredible, what are the skills and qualities that make someone the perfect fit for your program? Right? And think about everything, not just like, what's on their resume and their hard skills, but like the soft skills, like how do they display these things? Is it someone that is compassionate, someone that has a lot of critical thinking? Is it someone who's super patient, or all of the above, right? Like think about who you need. Or I think also it's really good to write out like who is absolutely not a great fit, right? If someone is like default not very extroverted, or like shy in public, like that's totally fine. Or it could be a case where like that's also totally great. But like think about what makes someone good or not good as a fit, right? And get that on paper. And the reason that we do this is because this helps you craft what that job posting looks like. And it also helps you craft the scorecards that you use to interview folks to make sure that they do actually fit your program. So you want to make sure that that job description actually sells the role, not just you come in and you're here from this time to this time and you're in this classroom and whatever, but like describe like, on the best days possible, what does the culture actually feel like, right? Talk about the impact that you might have on these children's lives. If you can include like some testimonials or reviews from families, like show that your workplace is a place that families love, they adore, they can't live without, and make it feel like the candidate would be lucky to get the opportunity to interview and then eventually get hired here. And think about all the perks that set your place apart, right? Do you have like any fun traditions? Maybe you have a quarterly offsite where lunch is paid for or dinner is paid for and everyone gets together. Or you have like holiday bonuses, or you have whatever it might be. I'm sure there's like a million things that you do, big and small, and list it out. Show your potential candidates that you've put a lot of thought and intention into creating a really fun environment to work in. I know a lot of people tend to use like Indeed, ZipRecruiter, LinkedIn, and I've seen mixed results here, right? Like I've seen people say, it's fine, it's whatever. I've heard others say we've dumped money into it and like it hasn't really worked out. And it's, I think, table stakes just to have your listings up on those general job boards, but you should also put it out on ECE specific job boards. Check out NACE, check out Early Day. That's a place where you could find and hire from. The other thing that I would think about is where are places that your ideal person is, right? Is it in a childcare Facebook group? Is it in a local educator network? Are you going to your local community college or high school career fairs? So think about, again, like depending on the kind of person that you want to hire and the amount of experience that they have, are you going to the places where they are spending time? If you have a particularly small community, maybe there's like a farmer's market on a weekly basis that everyone goes to, or there's like a super popular bar or restaurant that people like to hang out in. Whatever it might be, like figure out ways to partner with the people that host your ideal candidates and where they spend time. I would reach out to local schools like community colleges, universities, if they have any sort of early childhood program, master's program, undergraduate program in any sort of like relevant field or category. See if you can come in and do a guest lecture, or see if you can post on any online job posts, or just come in and hang out. Bring some really cute swag, some T-shirts with your logo on it. Set up a folding table and say hiring people, and talk to folks that come by. So think about where it is that your people hang out and then go be there. It's the same thing for trying to boost enrollment. It's the same exact philosophy. It's something that I've talked a lot about at length. Now, once we've established, okay, we've found the people that we want. And again, I know that some of this is a little bit high level, right? You can't just snap your finger and the people that you want are automatically in funnel. But if you're putting yourself in a position where you are hanging out where they're hanging out, you will find those people. The other thing I'll mention, actually, before we talk about the behavioral piece, is for these postings, you want to make sure that you are being incredibly responsive. Give them your cell phone number, text them, email them, whatever it is. Like, I would recommend doing texting. When I personally hire people, I text them all the time. It's where people by default are communicating with their friends. There's no reason why you shouldn't be able to communicate with them as well. If it's someone that you're particularly excited about, call them, text them, set the next meeting the next day or in the following day. Don't put it weeks apart, right? You want to make sure that there is as little time as possible between your most recent conversations to make sure that someone else doesn't swoop them up or they get cold feet. So you never want to make sure that you want to make sure that you are never the person getting in the way of them working through your funnel. So let's talk a little bit more about, let's assume that we have a couple candidates and we're hanging out in the right places and we've gotten some good inbound or we've gotten some folks to apply. You want to make sure that you are working backwards from that scorecard that we talked about before, from that list of what makes someone a good fit or a bad fit, and then build questions that the answer to those questions will reveal whether or not they're a good fit or a bad fit. So, for example, if they are someone who has worked in the field before, you want to ask them questions where they're specifically telling you about examples where they've exhibited or done specific things that hopefully will show you and reveal to you their ability to actually perform. So, for example, in the top left corner, right, if we want to talk about ask them, tell me about a time you managed a child's challenging behavior. What was the situation? How did you solve it? And the reason I like this question a lot is because you are putting the ball in their court and you are seeing if not only can they talk about like the thing that happened, but do they have the self-awareness to understand what is the situation? How did you solve it? Like, how did I solve it? And why was I successful at solving it? Did they apply any sort of critical thinking to why it was that the situation was resolved? I would always make sure to do the why. So like get the what, the situation and the solution, but ask, why was this your solution? Why did you think of this? And why do you think this was successful? Or if it wasn't successful, why do you think it was not successful? Even if someone hasn't done the solution, if they're able to reflect and tell you why it did not work, that is just as powerful. If not, sometimes I could even make the argument that's more powerful than them telling you why it did work. It means that they have the wherewithal to be able to take a step back, assess the situation, and understand what makes good performance and what makes bad performance. Some other great questions here are, tell me about a time you handled an emergency in the classroom. How did you respond? What was the outcome? Or describe a time you had to have a difficult conversation with a parent. What was your approach? Why was this your approach? Do you think this was successful? If you were to do it over again, what would you have changed, right? You want to have these behavioral questions and then one or two or even three follow-up questions to go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And this will hopefully show you if they have enough wherewithal and if they have the critical thinking to, again, identify if things are good or not. I think the other piece here is if they are able to explain why something worked or did not work, or what they would change if they had more time or more resources, it means that they care enough to think about how things could be better. And ideally, in your program environment, they'd have the support and the structure to actually make those things a reality. So you want to look for folks that are not just explaining what happened, but they're able to explain why things happened and how it would change in the future. Cool. The other piece that I would highly, highly, highly recommend doing, if your licensing allows you to do this, is trials. You want to see them in action. If the interview or the series of interviews that you had gives you get good vibes from these folks. You invite them, say, hey, like, it seems like this could be a really great fit. The last part of this interview process is a quick shadowing trial. You could even, I would highly recommend even offering to pay to cover their time for an hour and a half or 2 hours and say, hey, we'll compensate you for your time here, even if it doesn't work out. Because what you don't want to happen is someone great saying, like, I really need a job right now. I can't take 2 hours to come and do this. And so if you compensate them for their time, you'll have a higher likelihood of them moving from the behavioral interview to an actual on-site trial. And you can do a bunch of things here. Again, it's what you're comfortable with and what, Dreamstars said, yeah, we conduct work interviews. For those that don't see this, this is the same exact thing, right? We want to see what they're actually able to do in person. How do I hide this? There we go. So it's something like shadow a current teacher, right? Are they able to explain to you what the teacher did that was good? How did they read the room, right? Like, are they actually able to tell, if they're sitting in the corner watching one of your current teachers work, do they spot things that are good or that can be improved? Maybe you give them 20 minutes or 30 minutes and they can run a short activity. They can come up with an activity, or you can give them 4 or 5 activities to choose from. Are they able to, help the children do the activity? Are they engaging? What is their teaching style, right? Reflect on that. And then you can even do like some role plays, right? You sit in the office, you pretend to be a parent, they are themselves, and give them a couple scenarios. So really cool way to actually see what they're like in person. Obviously, like, they'll be a little bit nervous because not a lot of people do this, but it gives you a really good sense of like, A, does this person care enough to come in and do this? Like, will they be a good fit from that front? And B, they're actually doing, in a very short snippet, you're getting a cross section of them in action. So highly recommend doing this. It helps you de-risk them, and they can also de-risk it for themselves. They can get a sense of, okay, what is it like to work with you as a director or as an owner? What is it like to work with these teachers or in these classrooms? This is a job that requires them to be in office 5 days a week, right? And you want them to pick up on the vibe, so to speak. So something to consider. Now, once we've done our in-person trial and things feel good, we're going to move on. Let's we hire them. We're going to move on to actually building the team, helping them ramp up. You want to make sure, I can't stress this enough, how important it is, especially in the age of AI, to have a single place, a single source of truth for all answers for all things, whether it's culture and people. So, high level things like missions and values, but things like names and contact information, who's on the team right now, code of conduct, policies about phones and PTO. You want to have things about your security policies and your payroll dates and all that basic stuff. And then you also want to have health and safety procedures, right? Emergency response plans, first aid and CPR training requirements, just all the things, all the stuff. And you can use a system like Playground to actually upload your handbook into, and teachers can just ask the Playground bot, we call it Camber, at any point in time about anything in the handbook, and they'll get an answer in real time so that they don't have to go and scroll through and try to find a specific part of this specific handbook. And the reason this is really important is because this becomes what you refer to if there's ever anything, whether it's a normal question or whether it's a contentious one, you always refer back to the handbook. Now, I would highly recommend when you bring someone on, do a couple things. The first is make it extremely clear what your expectations are of them as they ramp up. So the further away they are from their start date, the less prescriptive you need to be. But for day one, their day should be pretty chunked out. It should be very, very prescriptive. You should tell them exactly where to go, who to eat with, what kinds of things to learn about, what kind of training to do. Like all that should be very prescribed. For week one, same there. And really for the whole first month, like all of it should be pretty scheduled. And then as they transition into the role over the next 2 or 3 months, then you can transition out of that like super hyper scheduled onboarding flow. But you should make it very clear to them what the expectation is at each milestone. So at the end of day one, at the end of week one, at the end of month one, month two, and month three. And I would highly recommend also having just super brief surveys for folks to fill out on each of those milestones, right? At the end of day one, just get a sense of like, hey, like, could you figure everything out? Was there any like unanswered questions? Do you feel like you're ready for day one? Because what you want to do is you want to make sure, as we're building this system, that the next time you hire a teacher, you are improving upon the experience of the most recent one to make it even more seamless. And over the course of 5, 6, 8, 10, 20 teachers, you will continue to get incredible feedback from these folks going through this process and significantly improving the system. The other piece is you also make it very clear what great looks like. What does performance look like? People want to know what they need to do to be great. And you need to make it very, very clear to them what you expect. The same is true also for career development. Make it very clear for them to understand, okay, if I'm an assistant teacher right now, or I'm a floater, what do I need to do to become a lead teacher, right? Like make it very, very, very clear to them what is expected of them in order to work their way up, make more money. And you can even have like the pay scale in there so they can see, oh, wow, like I would get like a $3 an hour boost if I go from here to here. And help them help themselves build up that. So the other piece that's big here is you want to have mentorship. Now, of course, be mindful here. Other teachers are busy. They have other stuff going on. And you may not always want them to be with your most experienced staff, right? I think there is a piece to this where knowledge transfer happens naturally and like things come up, questions come up, and you want to have someone there you can depend on to answer these questions. And so you can think through like what this looks like. I oftentimes like to recommend doing an onboarding buddy. So someone that they can just go to if they have questions, they can have lunch together. Ideally you're making it so that their schedule is aligned so that they can have lunch together if possible. But having some sort of buddy plus professional development leads to, it's proven to have significantly higher staff retention. So this is a big piece. Think about who they can go to if you're not around. And you also want them to have a peer that they can go to. Not only does it answer their questions, but they also feel more committed and more connected to the organization. There's a sense of belonging that they get to build if they start to have this relationship with a buddy. I touched on this in a second or a couple minutes ago, but salaries and benefits, obviously this should be very, very clear even before they come on. It should be very clear exactly what all this looks like. But make it clear what is required of them to get a raise or to get a promotion. Ideally, a pay scale is something that you have. Tamar, who is Josh and Dan's mom, my co-founder's mom, she has a great pay scale calculator that she likes to give out. It's something that I'm sure we can find and follow up with if people are interested, but something that is really great for building trust through transparency. So everyone knows kind of what's expected of them and what they can get to if they meet certain requirements. Now, of course, on the benefit side, this is going to be a bit more dependent on what you're able to do and how creative you can get. But whatever benefits you can provide, ideally, there's interesting pieces with like local businesses. If you can like get some sort of broker some sort of relationships with folks in your area and see if you can get like 20% off for employees of Happy Hands Preschool. Like that is meaningful and goes a long way. It also helps get your name out there a little more as well. So think through like how creative you can get with these benefits. This is an amazing idea here. Dreamstars writes in, they offer PD opportunities and offer, they pay $400 or $500 in stipend if you get there. So incentivize your team to get better. This is brilliant because it pays back in spades. It compounds very quickly. The better that your teachers are, the longer they stay, the happier your parents are, the better it is for the overall program. So I love that. Thank you for sharing. Okay, now let's talk about the supporting piece here. And this is how we think about retention, right? You want to make sure that once they're in your system, once you found the perfect teachers, they've ramped up, they know what's expected of them, they're getting productive, you want to make sure that they stick around. And there's a few things you can do that. Of course, cash is king. Who doesn't want money? So if you can do this, I would highly recommend looking into incentivizing your team with performance-based bonuses. And ideally, this is directly tied to the business's goals. So think about like enrollment numbers or utilization numbers. You can do this either on a monthly or quarterly basis. Again, depends on like what makes the most sense for your business. But I've seen this work really well where, if you have 100% retention, you get a certain bonus. Or if you get a certain number of reviews from families in your classroom, you get a small spiff, like a gift card or something like that. Obviously, cash here is king. In addition, we want to do public recognition. And I know a lot of you are doing this today, which is great, but make sure that you are doing shout outs in staff meetings. There's awards. You can do super duper budget friendly awards at the end of the year doing highlights. You can do like the Dunder Mifflin. If anyone here is an Office fan, you can do like a Dunder Mifflin award show where everyone gets a little superlative. Or even better yet, you have a couple of folks on your team become the planning committee and they create superlatives for everyone. Also, public recognition in the eyes of your families. Have a teacher of the month. Print their photo out, put a QR code next to it and say, hey, Mrs. Harmony is the teacher of the month. If you're in the Tadpoles classroom, scan the QR code and leave a review about how much you love her. And not only does she get this public recognition, but then your families are excited about it. They leave a review on Google or wherever else, calling her out by name, which makes her feel even better, but then also is great for your program. And then super small gestures, right? It doesn't have to be insanely expensive, but just like a quick handwritten note, a little sticky note, make someone chuckle, put a smile on their face, just leave it where they hang out. Grab someone a coffee, jump in if something's going on in their day and you have an extra 45 minutes, just jump in, let them step out for a second, catch a breather or grab a quick snack, whatever it might be. Like everyone knows how crazy it is, and those small things can make or break a day or make or break a week. Now, the other piece here, and this one is interesting because burnout can show up in a lot of different ways, but as owners, directors, as folks that have people report into them, just keep an eye on people's energy, right? A lot of this is can be physical, right? Like constant fatigue, low energy, or there's just a general slouching that's going on. Maybe they are more irritable. They seem to be more indifferent to the role, or there's a decline in work performance. The way we respond is not just an immediate, you're not tapped in here. But you want to start to work with them and say, hey, it seems like compared to a year ago, there's this energy that is no longer there. What's going on? And there's a few options, there's a few levers that you can pull here, right? The first is schedules, right? Maybe we need to reconsider what schedules look like. My friends Kate and Carrie from Childcare Conversations always talk about the 4-day work week where folks are working 10 hours per day, for example, and they get to work a 3-day weekend. So it could be maybe someone prefers to work half days, or maybe someone prefers to work an extra long one day, or whatever it might be. There might be flexibility, or there's more creative breaks that aren't skipped. Whatever it might be, talk to your staff, get an understanding of what their schedules actually look like, and see if you can mix and match. Oftentimes, you might find that you actually will end up saving a little bit on payroll costs as a result of playing around with these schedules and being a bit more flexible with what hours people get. I'd also highly recommend having dedicated one-on-one time on the calendar. Whoopsies, Wi-Fi went out. We're back. I was saying for one-on-one time, take a walk, let them just vent for you for a little bit. And we want to make sure that like things like mistakes are not called out as, hey, like this was bad, shame on you, but hey, like this thing happened. What do you think we could have done better to do it? Or if we were to do it again, it's almost like those behavioral interview questions, like what could we have done differently? And have them respond to it and help them teach themselves and learn to grow from those issues, reframing those mistakes. Obviously, there's a lot here, and the piece that Playground specifically helps with is on the operational side, freeing up your time as an owner and as a director so that you can then invest it into your teachers and into your families and into the kiddos. So for those that aren't familiar, Playground is like a childcare management system that helps with that operational load. So we do things like timesheets and taxes and PTO management and staff scheduling, but then also billing and enrollment and lead management and tours and all the fun stuff. I have a slide here that shows all the fun stuff that we do, among others. So if you're interested in learning more, there's a little button on the screen that you can click. What I want to offer everyone, though, before we jump off, is we have a guide that we put together on writing a great staff handbook. So we have the download link right here. You can click on it, or you can scan the QR code. And this is something that you can use to help guide, revisit your handbook. Again, a lot of the policies that are in there are either table stakes, should be in there already, or you can use this as a checklist to be like, okay, good, I have this piece in my handbook today. The other piece that I always like to talk about is teachers have so much to do day to day, and we expect a lot of them, as do directors, as do owners. And the providers that we work with that have the most predictable programs, the ones where obviously like call-outs happen and there's disruptions that happen, but the ones that are prepared for these disruptions are the ones that have automated as much of the tedious busy work out as possible. And a system like Playground is designed specifically for that. So if you're interested in learning more, you can grab the link in the bottom right corner, or sorry, in the middle of the screen, or you can scan the QR code and you can grab a demo with us. I'll go through the Q&A. We have about 5 minutes for questions here. And in the meantime, I want to also call out, we have 2 more webinars coming up on the 8th, that next Friday. Wow, May 8th is already coming up here. We're doing a getting ready for summer camp webinar where we're talking specifically about billing, safety, everything between, but and especially the enrollment side of things, because enrollment oftentimes looks a little bit different than typical childcare for year-round childcare. So how do we enroll families for like 1 day this week, 3 days next week, 5 days the week after that? How do we bill for that? How do we communicate all that? How do we make sure schedules look correct? So you should come to that if you're curious about what that looks like, or if you haven't done summer camp yet and want to learn a bit more about the benefits of it, feel free to. And then the following, I guess, 11 days after that, I'm doing a demo on, or a presentation on Playground. I talk a lot about Playground. I mentioned it quickly, but like, what is the story behind the software? How does it actually work? And so if you're curious to see exactly like what it looks like on a webinar with me, you are more than welcome to. So link to sign up for these webinars is on the screen. And then I will leave us with this piece as I go through the Q&A for the next 5 minutes. If you are interested in grabbing some time with my team to go through the platform, what we're really good at is understanding your business today, where you're spending a lot of that operational time, where a lot of that busy work is showing up in the business, and showing you how to consolidate systems and time so you can invest it in other places. So that all being said, let's go through and check out what we have in here. Okay, so Georgia asks, how do I use floaters accurately? This is a good question. This is, and there's a lot of takes on this here. How do I maximize my time as a director in an 8-hour day? And how do I not be too nice to my employees? Look, Georgia, at the end of the day, you have a business to run. You need to make sure that your business can continue to run. And if your business is not around, then there won't even be employees to work with. And so sometimes it's a little bit of tough love, and again, depends on the situation here. But I would go back to the fact that you have a business to run, and you can do things without making it seem like it's a top-down approach, right? Have a conversation with your teachers and make sure that they understand what the policies are. They understand the why behind the decisions you make. So again, if you want to be more specific in some of the things that you are dealing with, I'm happy to talk through it. On the floaters piece specifically, I would talk to your teachers, understand what their schedules look like today, what their ideal schedules look like, and then use floaters to help plug in the gaps. Cool. Beth asks, we are staggering staff. Trying to find a solution to staff schedules, stagger staff for 8 9-hour shifts. We open 10 hours a day. Hard to find people to stay for extended care. Staff get paid lunch during their 8-hour shift. Yeah, so part of this, and I would talk to your teachers also and get an understanding of maybe there is someone that like would love to come in every day and open up, and they're down to come in every day to open up and leave like the back ends of their day open or leave. Part of this is going to be just a conversation, right? Maybe there are folks that are actually, oh, you know what? Like I actually have been doing something and I want to sleep in. I can come in and cover the extended care period, but not come in for the morning. So like I would recommend chatting with them and saying, hey, like there's a world where we can be a bit more flexible here. Help me understand like what makes sense for you guys and see if there's a nice middle ground where you can land. Good question. Let's see what else we have. Most difficult hours to fill are closing hours, 3 to 5:30. Understood. Part of this is going to be maybe you can find floaters to help plug the gap, or you find some folks that are in school right now that want like that have classes in the morning and can come in and help out in the like extended care part of the day. Again, part of this is going to probably be putting yourself in a position where you are attracting people or you're communicating to folks that this is a role that's specifically for this time, or you have a conversation with your staff and say, hey, like this is what the business needs. Who wants to step up or who wants to get creative? Good question. All right. Dreamstars asks, we have a staff book. What are your suggestions to having your team actually read it? During staff meetings, should we put a Jeopardy game to check their knowledge and check to see who actually read it? I don't think it's that serious. Like, I don't think you need to force everyone to read every single word of it. That being said, if there are specific themes that are important, so maybe like you want to do a theme where it's health and safety themed or HR themed, whatever it might be, you can create like a little, you can do like a Jeopardy self-made game. and you can let everyone know, hey, this month it's really important to us that everyone brushes up on these specific policies. We're going to do a Jeopardy game, and there's going to be a couple winners with prizes. You can make the prizes like coffee or a gift card or whatever it is, and you can make it fun and have a little competition in there. So that during your staff meeting once a month or once every quarter, whatever it is, you're playing a game and people are actually talking about the things in your staff handbook. I just would avoid testing everyone on the entire 40-page thing because it's dense. Gavi actually wrote in and says they've done a Kahoot game here and it was successful. So yeah, I would keep it chunked, and I would make sure that it is tightly scoped in nature and there's a competitive aspect to it. The other piece that we have is, again, like if you have a system like Playground, you can upload the entire thing into Playground, and if and when folks have questions about how to do anything or anything, any policies that come up, they can just ask the AI agent and we'll answer it from them. Amazing. Guys, we are at time here. Thank you so much for joining. We will follow up with an email in case you want to revisit this webinar. Otherwise, I hope you found this helpful. We'll also include a link to the guide to the staff handbook authoring. And if you have questions, feel free to reach out. Otherwise, we'll see you next week for another one of these webinars. Stay happy, stay healthy. Bye, everyone.